Welcome to another edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. I'm Bob Papa. The Giants take on the Chicago Bears on Sunday at MetLife Stadium. Coming off a Monday night loss to the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk about that. We'll look ahead. Carl Banks will go to the coaches' take with strategy. We'll hear from Amani Toomer and Sean O'Hara and much more. But it's with great pleasure I welcome in the head coach of the New York Football Giants, Coach Brian Daboll and Carl Banks. And Coach, obviously the atmosphere was awesome Monday night. You hung in there, but the Dallas Cowboys just made the plays at the right time.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to the fans. The support was unbelievable. Been in the league a long time and one of the best environments in a September that I've been part of. Unfortunately, we didn't get the results we were looking for. At the end of the day, they made a few more plays. I thought our guys played hard. They played for 60 minutes, but just came up a little bit short.
Coach, the good news is that there's another game on the schedule. And so you don't have time, and the players don't have time to really dwell on that. You make your corrections, but what is the process now of the focus? It's a short week, too.
Yeah.
So does that heighten the focus and from everybody's perspective?
Yeah, I think you get right back into it. Again, we have a tremendous amount of respect for our opponents and really our process and how we go about things. And I talk to them about consistency is key. And that's hard sometimes in this league when you lose a game or you win a game. You get too high or too low. And you know, our focus is on us improving, getting better, staying as consistent as we can. So ultimately we change the results the following week if it is a loss, or keep it the same if it's a win.
You know, you look for some silver linings in things. Talk about the way Daniel Jones played, with not only the beating that he took, but it seemed like his eyes were always downfield. And even when there were chances to run, he was waiting till the last minute if he could make a play with his arm.
Yeah, I thought he made good decisions throughout the night. And again, he was under some duress, not just from the line, but you know, whether a back missed a protection or a tight end didn't chip as well. So we all had a hand in that. But I thought he was a steady force and made a lot of good plays for us, gave us a chance to go ahead and put ourselves in position to at least tie the game.
Coach, can you talk about his progression within this system? Because from week one, I used the word robotic, but he wasn't free-flowing almost. And then you can see now as the grasp comes and his feel for the game, do you see him really starting to come into a more natural state of quarterbacking, if you will?
Yeah, I think he's made progress since we got here. And again, he's had 3 games, you know, under the lights when it counts the most. And I think, you know, from week 1 to week 2 to week 3, he's made improvements in certain areas that I think we targeted in the offseason. And you know, he's an extremely hard worker, and you know, I'm proud of him the way he competed. You know, just wish we could have finished off a little stronger.
Coach, Dallas was able to have a lot of success with the run game, and you guys have been really good against the run. Obviously, with Leonard Williams not playing, he's a central figure in what you do defensively. Just talk a little bit about that and some of the things that you've seen that can get corrected.
Yeah, you know, they hit a couple big ones on us. One was on a 3rd down and 10, 12, where they, you know, were in a pistol formation and they got the edge, and another one they hit kind of in the C gap and had 2 guys in the same gap and squirted out. Again, the run game is about tackling, it's about gap integrity, it's about knockback. Those are things that we focus on every week, and you know, we'll see it here again this week.
Yeah, Coach, and just to add on to that, what you saw last night was first contact, not sure tackling, and then running back, keeping them ahead of schedule. Instead of like a 2-yard gain, it may have been spotted 4 yards, 5 yards. And that's an area that is easily correctable. If you're making contact, it's just a matter of following through with the technique. Yeah,
no question about it. Again, we got to get the guy down. We got to do a good job of building a wall at the line of scrimmage, and give Dallas credit. They did a good job, and you know, they were always ahead of the sticks, which is helpful for a quarterback too when you have that.
You know, and sometimes teams just make great plays, like CeeDee Lamb's touchdown catch.
Yeah,
that was phenomenal. But I thought maybe the biggest play in the game was Lamb hanging on to the football on that 4th and 4, because Dane Belton gives him a heck of a whack. That's just a tip your cap kind of play, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, we were holding a disguise a little bit. Dane, you know, read it coming out quick. Tibbs actually had a good inside move on it, but the ball came out and it was a bang play, and you know, they were right there at the line. Close one.
You told us many times that, hey, it's not always going to be pretty.
Yeah.
You're not going to draw fancy pictures, but hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. You've won the first 2 games that way. Didn't turn out that way on Monday night, but Do you like the fact that your team is following the blueprint that you're laying out?
Yeah, I think they compete every week, and that's the first step in trying to improve as a football team. And now we got to take care of the details and do some of the things that cost us this game relative to the end result. But the guys are fighting; they're giving 100% effort, and we just got to keep that mentality and then build off again some of the things that we didn't do as well this game.
All right, we're going to take a time out here on the program. When we come back, Coach and Carl go to the auditorium for building blocks as they look back at the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. That and a whole lot more here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop.
Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show. It's time to get smarter, Coach, and let's take a look at some of the key plays of the game.
Yeah, okay, so this one here is in the third quarter. It's the Saquon run. And we have two tight ends in the game where we're kind of overloading this side of the formation. Two receivers split out, and we're running an outside zone play with Saquon. And I think that the line does a great job of getting off on the ball, getting a hat for a hat. Saquon takes a good course. You can see they have penetration here as a 3 technique. This defender right here running up the field on the guard. And Saquon fields the edge set of the defense, so he puts his foot in the ground and he gets north. And these guys are doing a good job downfield. You can see the ball snapped at call it the 36. And we got him moved back to 4 yards off the ball, which is always a good thing in a running game. And then Saquon does a good job of making one player miss in the open field and squirting out the backside for a big play for us. Gave us some good momentum. Unfortunately, we didn't capitalize on it, but definitely a good play in the game for us.
And sometimes, Coach, as we look at this next angle, now they've got a backside guy who's playing contain and closing down, but once Saquon puts his foot in the ground here, he just changes speed, and this guy coming down the line of scrimmage is now behind him.
That's exactly right, and that's what we tell Saquon is, look, you're going to have your read, and it's going to either go outside or you're going to make one cut and get vertical so that these backside players can't go ahead and collapse on you and make the play at the line of scrimmage. The other thing you see is Daniel booting away to try to hold this player for a second. If this guy just keeps running down the field, then we'll come back and have a compliment off of this run. But good job getting a hat for a hat, really at the entire line of scrimmage. Tight ends are singled up. They're trying to get their hat on the backside of the defender. And, Glow, as this guy goes ahead and pushes up the field on him, just winds him enough where Saquon can go ahead and get his feet.
But that key to putting you say put your foot in the ground, that once he got vertical, gave him a chance to now see all the openings too, because he sees one hole here that he's headed towards, and then he redirects right there and makes two other guys miss.
Exactly right. And his shoulders are going square, which allows him to go ahead and make this move.
So a lot of that, as good as the blocking was, after that, it's a lot of Saquon.
Yeah, no, and that's, those big plays in the running game usually happen. You get a hat for a hat, but when you have a really good player that can make people miss in space, that's when the big plays really come. And, these two guys have good angles on them, but what a great jump cut he has. And we go out there and finish the play for a big one. This next one here on defense, early in the third quarter, we went down and scored on a field goal. And early play here for our defense, I think Ox just does a really good job. Again, they're kind of, in the same type of formation we just saw with us, albeit with a receiver. And they're running the same type of play, outside zone. But in this case, the tight end is coming down on the defensive tackle, and they're trying to get a pin and a pull from these three players. And you can see Ox reads this block really well. He goes down, Ox's hands go out, he sets the edge right here on the pulling tackle, and then takes on the guard as well and funnels it, back inside where X is waiting right here in this C gap that's moving along the line of scrimmage, all maintaining his outside leverage and setting the edge for the running game, which allows all his other players, his teammates, to come on down the line and join the party.
Well, I can tell you, that's not an easy block to defend. When we get to the end zone, look at that. that's a U block with a puller.
That's exactly right.
So it's designed to widen Ox out, but you talk assignment football, but if you just take a look, when the tight end blocks down, there's a U block by the tackle, and then a guard pulling to push him out, but he has good hands. Number one, head is outside right away, so he sets the edge there. But then you got a guard coming, and it's pretty easy to get caught up in the wash, but he uses his hands on everything, turns it back in, but then the assignment football again is where Xavier McKinney's right there in the hole where he's supposed to replace.
Exactly right. I mean, I couldn't coach it any different than you did, Carl, and Hall of Famer in the eyes of the Giants fans for a reason. That's exactly right. It's just good team defense, but it really starts with Ox playing this U block, as we call it, and then does a really good job of adding on to this guard coming out so that X can go ahead and make a play. And I'd say Moreau out here as a corner is doing the same thing. He's setting the edge of the defense so that everybody else can come down the line of scrimmage. But a really good play, which, this led to a 3-and-out early part of the third quarter, which we were able to drive down there and score after this. And then this last clip here in teams, this is our punt team. They have a 6-up look. They're vicing these two out here, the two gunners. But the thing that Jamie's been working hard on, the reason why we have this on here, is really good hang time on his punt and really good positioning of it. This guy was a dynamic returner, which he ended up getting a couple on us here, which we need to keep improving on. But this one right here really prevented this. Turpin can't get to it. It takes a little bit of a roll, but everybody's doing a good job. It starts with the protection, which this was a really good rush unit for the Dallas Cowboys and has been for a while. But I'd say the two Dunners do a good job. We're going to try to stack this guy the best we can, which means get on top of him to force this guy to make a fair catch. But a big play in terms of changing field position for us. I thought Jamie and the punt team did a really good job here.
And the best weapon against a dynamic returner is to have the ability to direct him where you want him to go.
No doubt about it.
And the bonus is that ball dropping a yard from the sideline and going out of bounds.
No doubt about it. And it starts with the protection, inside out, strong at the line of scrimmage. But really the directional punt, like you just talked about for Jamie, is a weapon for us. If we kick it right down the middle and the players think it's supposed to go over here, that's tough to cover for the punt team.
Well, Coach, we're all smarter. We'll be back with more of the Coach Daboll Show.
Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop Giants and Bears at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. Time for this week's edition of Head to Head with Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara.
So let's take a look at a couple of key head-to-head matchups between the Giants and the Chicago Bears. Starting with the Giants offense, Sean.
All right.
Quarterback Daniel Jones against Eddie Jackson, a veteran in the secondary, crafty, wily, a safety who does a lot of really good things for this D. Jones knows he's got to be very careful of him.
Yeah, he's a smart football player. I think that's what you see when you watch the tape. He reads the quarterback well. He can tell recognizes routes and understands, where the quarterback's trying to get the ball, so he plays according to that. So he's a good player. You can tell he's got, good instincts and good smarts.
Now, the Bears, they run it 65% of the time, so they're going to bring this game down to a crawl, even more so than your other opponents so far this year. As a quarterback, how aware of that do you have to be? Does it affect your patience at all, knowing that you may only get so many snaps and so many possessions?
I don't think it really affects us too much. I think each possession we're trying to score. We're trying to get the most out of each possession every time we get the ball. So that's what we're focused on, and I know the defense will be tuned in to what their offense does.
Final question. As a quarterback, I know you can make your pre-snap adjustments and your reads at the line and so forth, but how much encouragement and intangibles can you assist the offensive line with as they get their protection schemes squared away?
Yeah, I think, those guys have done a great job, and that was a tough front we played with Dallas for sure. You got to give them credit. But, those guys have done well. It's on all of us to, get the ball out of our hands and make good decisions. So thought those guys played well, and I'm excited to get out there Sunday.
Now, why is this one important for me? I'm looking at Daniel Jones, who has lowered his interception percentage in each of his first 3 seasons in the league. Jackson Well, he's a two-time Pro Bowl pick, and he is a turnover machine. He's already got 2 picks on this season. And, oh, by the way, he's got 6 defensive touchdowns since he came into the league in 2017. He can burn you in a variety of ways.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Taking care of the football is priority number 1 for Daniel Jones. I think anytime you're in the passing game, you always want to find out where the safety is. That will lead you to the coverage. If it's single high, all right, now I know what kind of zone coverage I have. If it's too high, obviously, now I know where the windows are to throw. But, Paul, I think the even bigger aspect of it is Eddie Jackson. They like to blitz him. They like to have him down in the box sometimes. So the run game, it's so crucial as a quarterback to come up and say, okay, where's 4, right? If he's lined up on the weak side, now I know the linebackers are going to probably rotate over. Now, what is our play design? We have a lot of plays offensively, Paul, that we will run at the safety or run away from the safety. So that is a big part of the chess match. And I know for Daniel Jones, his confidence in this offense is growing week by week. Knowing where to put the play, knowing how to bring the safety in to kind of dig him out. So that's going to be a great matchup. And, of course, he won't have Sterling Shepard now to dig out the safety. That's something that I know he really took a lot of pride in. So that will be a big adjustment for Daniel Jones to handle.
By the way, one other tidbit. The Bears are 12-0 in games when Jackson has an interception during his career. Now, another matchup, this one on the defensive side of the ball, Sean, Giants linebacker Jay Crowder against Khalil Herbert, the running back for the Bears. Now, we know Herbert had a breakout game last week after Montgomery went out with an ankle injury. But let's talk about Crowder for a second. Now, over the course of the season, he's averaging 3 less tackles per game than he did last year. He's going to have to pick that up because we know the Bears love to run the ball. This is a team that is running the ball 65% of the time. That is number 1 in the National Football League. He's going to be a busy man, not Herbert.
Yeah, Paul, an O-lineman's dream right now. 65% of the time we're running the football. That's a heavy day for Tay Crowder. And as you mentioned, no doubt it's the second best rushing offense in the NFL. So he's going to be watching film right now on that offense, trying to figure out, all right, how do we slow this guy down? Khalil Herbert, he's a one-cut runner. He does a great job running the zone plays in between the tackles, and I really like his ability to find creases. So a tough guy to handle, although he's not a really big guy. You mentioned the big game last week against the Texans, 157 yards. The thing that jumped out at me was 7.9 yards a carry. So absolutely, everybody up front's got to handle that line of scrimmage. But the job of Tay Crowder as a middle linebacker, anytime it's the run game, it's like Ludacris says, when I move, you move. All right, you got to be his mirror. You got to shadow him. You got to imitate what the angle that he's on and follow him throughout. But not just on the ground, Paul. You got to find a way to cover him in the passing game because he's got some niftiness. He's got some elusive ability. And no doubt Justin Fields is going to try to use that to his advantage.
Well, last year as a rookie, when Herbert was behind Montgomery, he did have one 100-yard game, ran for over 400 yards. But the key for him, you mentioned his niftiness. He was 7th in the NFL in kickoff returns at 24 yards a pop. So he absolutely is elusive. Well, that'll do it for our head-to-head matchups this week between the Giants and the Chicago Bears. Now let's go back to Bob.
Carl, obviously the Bears rely on their run game. The Giants didn't stop the run last week. That's got to be the first thing that the Giants get fixed.
Well, they do. And they have to, bigger than that, Bob, is tackling. That's why you don't stop the run game. If you can when you get first hits on a guy at the line of scrimmage, he should be able to go for another 5 yards. So, yes. But the other element of that run game is Justin Fields. He factors into their run game, too, because he's a very mobile quarterback. Even on passing situations, if it breaks down, he's a very capable runner.
And Carl will go to the coach's tape a little bit later on in the show and illustrate that for you. When we come back in the program, Madeline Burke joins us for Over Under here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. Certainly is going to be exciting at MetLife Stadium on Sunday with the legacy game and those uniforms. Carl, I know you're going to be fired up to see it.
So excited about that.
It's going to be pretty cool. Now it's time for Over Under as we send it over to Madeline Burke with Amani Toomer and Sean O'Hara.
Welcome to our brand new set. And as Bob mentioned, we've got the legacy game on Sunday against the Bears. Our set is decorated appropriately. Yeah. We've got a couple legacy players over here. Can I say that? We're on the brink. We're on the brink.
Might be a super legend. I'm a little older than Sean.
There we go.
Plenty of gray.
Well, it's game time. Time to get into one of our favorite games of the week. A little over under. Sean, Amani, you know the rules. Sean, I'll start with you on this one. Over under 86 rushing yards for Saquon Barkley on Sunday.
I'm going to take the over on this one. We're talking legacy, so I'm thinking about Joe Morrison, O.J. Anderson, and Rodney Hampton, who just went into the Ring of Honor. I think Saquon's got to have a big day. We know the Bears like to run the football, but I think right now he is the agitator on offense. He is the straw that stirs this offensive drink. So give me 100 plus from Saquon.
I'm going to go over because I think running the ball is something that we have to do. Saquon is our best part of our offense. We need to get him going, and the success of our team is going to be on how well Saquon does getting the ball downfield.
I'm going to agree with you both there. Say over as well. Like we talked about on the post-game show last week, got to get more rushing yards for Saquon Barkley. This offense has been running through him more. Let's do it more. All right, Amani, over under 21 points scored by the Giants offense.
I'm going to go under. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. Our offense hasn't been as prolific because of the fact that our passing game is really struggling, and we need big plays. I don't think we're going to get them. Saquon is our guy, and I think we're going to go under.
Yeah, offensively, points have been tough to come by. I'm going to take the over on this because I feel like touchdowns and points sometimes come in bunches. I think 21 is an interesting number because when I see that, Madeline, I think, well, that's just 3 touchdowns.
Right.
All right. And so that feels like no field goals. I think absolutely Graham Gano is going to have a couple field goals, so I'll take the over.
Okay. I'm gonna kind of teeter the line here. I wanted to say over. I wanted to say under, but I'm kind of leaning towards under here as well because the Giants are averaging 19 points a game, like we mentioned. They're not getting a lot of touchdowns. 3 touchdowns is a possibility, but I do think this defense is going to be the key to the game. So I'm going to take the under as well. All right, Sean, over under 2.5 sacks by the Giants defense.
Give me the over on this one for the Giants. And look, obviously not having Leonard Williams last week was a big blow, but I think not just Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau. I think the pressure packages against a young quarterback like Justin Fields, there's going to be at least 3 to 4 sacks, and some of them may just be on the quarterback, not even a defensive guy beating an offensive guy to get to the quarterback.
I'm going to go under. I just feel like our defensive line wasn't as productive as I had expected. It seemed like they took a little stinger off of the pressure that was on for the first couple of games. So I'm going to go under. I know Justin Fields is a little erratic in terms of running it around, but I think like the Giants, they're going to just run the ball. It's going to be a very quick game. Clock's going to keep moving, and I think they're going to go under.
I'm going to go with the over here because, like Sean's point about scoring coming in bunches, I also think sacks will come in bunches. And the Giants didn't get to the quarterback much last week. That is a priority of Wink Martindale's defense, we know. Plus, Justin Fields has the highest sack rate among quarterbacks with at least 200 pass attempts since last year, 12% sack rate. So I think the Giants defense is going to get in there and do some damage. All right, lastly, Amani, over or under 200 receiving yards allowed?
Under. I don't think Justin Fields is going to be able to be consistent in the passing game for many reasons, and I just feel like our pass defense really hasn't been the issue. What has been our issue has been, mostly on offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I'll go with the under on this one. Key for the Giants, don't give up the big play. Justin Fields is going to escape the pocket at some point. He's going to run around. But that's not what they do. This is the second best rushing offense in the NFL. They're not a throw-first team. He's averaging 99 passing yards per game. I mean, that's got to be worse than the NFL right now. So that's not exactly their forte. And I think for the Giants, they're going to keep it at that.
Absolutely. I'm going to agree with you there as well. Under because Bears are a running team, and with Byron Pringle going to the IR on Tuesday, they've got only 4 healthy receivers. They're going to stick to what they do best and run the ball. We'll see how that plays out on Sunday when the Bears face the Giants at MetLife Stadium. But for now, we'll send it back to Bob and Carl in the field house.
Carl, the Bears have some talented wide receivers, but they've only attempted 45 pass attempts through the first 3 weeks, which is the lowest number in the entire league.
Well, Bob, look for that to improve. They know that they have talent at the wide receiver, and it's a process. It's early in the season. They're starting to get acclimated to their quarterback, to their offensive system. So I think as time goes on, and I suspect you'll see more passes this week than you did last week.
When we come back in the program, we'll do a little breakdown with Carl Banks and strategy here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. Bears and Giants Sunday at MetLife Stadium. Time for strategy with Carl Banks. And Carl, the Bears want to run the football, and they have talented running backs, but they also like to use their quarterback, Justin Fields, in the run game.
Yeah, you have to account for Justin Fields as a runner because they will script it, but also if your pass lane integrity breaks down, he will hurt your defense. And let's just take a look at his process here. You'll see a little bootleg. He's able to escape. Now he's off and running, good speed. Again, look at it, the rush got to him, and we're gonna look at his process here because when he gets out of the boot, he doesn't have a chance to look down the field, so he tucks it away and he runs. As you can see, he's a big guy, he can run the football. Now, we're gonna take a look at it, how he processes, Bob, on this next play because the rush gets to him, but he has time to see down the field. You can see he's looking down the field, he escapes. Now he keeps looking down the field, finds an open guy. So his mobility and ability to run the football as well as to buy time to pass the football is very key. So you have to make sure when he moves, the back end of your defense, they cannot be spectators. They got to cover up all the receivers.
Yeah, and you saw the athleticism. He had time. Nobody was open. Then there was pressure. Does the Romo spin, and then he hits former Giant Dante Pettis for a long touchdown. Defensively, Roquan Smith, second team All-Pro each of the last 2 years.
This guy is a ball hawk, Bob. And I mean, when you talk about instincts, the ball is snapped and he's in the backfield right here, knows exactly where it's going. Now, there's nothing that most linebackers would be able to detect here. I'm going to freeze it. But just watch how he reads the backs and the linemen. As they pull, they take him to the football, and that's just good linebacker play. He's in the hole before the blocker gets there.
That's some tremendous stuff. Carl, we're going to take another look at Roquan Smith. Different play, but same kind of instincts.
Yeah, just being able to track a play as if he had a radar on it is just amazing, his ability to ball hog, Bob. And if this slows down, you see he runs right through a gap, makes a tackle from the opposite side of the center and makes it for a loss.
Now, Chicago won the game on a field goal against Houston last week, and they didn't have to do much offensively because Roquan Smith basically won the field position for him.
He did, and he's here at the corner of your screen there, Bob, and you'll see playing great zone coverage, but the pattern read. Let's just look. When the quarterback comes back, he's in his break and breaking on the ball. So it's good pattern read, but the beautiful part about what he does is you see a receiver that's coming behind him, number 12. He did not open that window because if he does, the quarterback throws it behind him. So he stays in that window. As soon as the quarterback arm goes back, he steps in, intercepts the football.
And that sets up the game-winning field goal for the Chicago Bears. That's a look at the Chicago Bears in this week's edition of Strategy, which is brought to you by PSE&G, providing safe and reliable energy now and in the future. When we come back in the program, above the numbers and much more here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. We're back here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. Legacy game on Sunday with the uniforms as the Giants host the Chicago Bears, one of the oldest rivals that the Giants have. The Bears born in 1920, the Giants in 1925. Well, it's time for this week's edition of Above the Numbers with Paul Dottino and Amani Toomer.
Well, now it's time to go above the numbers as the Giants take on the Chicago Bears, and we need to figure out who needs to excel this weekend. Amani, who's up first?
David Sills. With Sterling Shepard going down, there's a void for a big play wide receiver. David Sills is the guy because of the fact that Daniel Jones has a comfort level with him and throws him the ball a lot. He's going to get a lot more targets, and his level of play is going to have to elevate.
Now, you know what's interesting about Sills? He's made all 3 starts with the Giants so far this season and played 68% of the snaps. In fact, of the active players this week in the Giants receivers room, that will be the most snaps. In 7 career games, though, no touchdowns. So how about he gets one this week against the Bears?
That would be above the numbers.
Exactly. I'm going to go defensively. Jihad Ward. Now, he has really been stout against the run this season. And when you talk about the Bears, this team is number 2 in the National Football League, Amani, in rushing the football, averaging 35 tries per game for 187 yards on the ground each week. They clearly want to keep the ball on the ground. Now, Ward, 16 tackles so far this season. That is already half of what his career high was last year when he had 32.
You're right, Paul. That's a great point. And also, you got to understand, their quarterback situation in Justin Fields, they're not able to open it up throwing the ball down the field. They're going to have to rely on the run game, and we're going to have Jihad Ward have a great game, along with the rest of the Giants defense, stopping the run.
And we've seen Ward line up all over the entire Giants defensive front. All right, let's go below the numbers. Now, who do they need to keep down on the Bears roster? We think it's Robert Quinn, pass rusher par excellence. Now, he's primarily going to play right tackle, which means he'll go up against Andrew Thomas. Last year, he did get a sack on Thomas by going around the edge when the Giants fell to the Bears. But think about this now. Only 1 sack this year. He has been quiet. This is a guy who last year led the NFC with 18.5 sacks. He can be a force.
Yes, and we're going to have to keep him under control. There's got to have chips and all the stuff that, Daboll was talking about last week. We're going to have to do with Robert Quinn just to make sure that he does not get back on track like you're saying.
Well, Amani, that means the running backs and tight ends need to make sure they get their chips when called upon, because you don't want to leave your tackle out on an island against this guy. So that'll do it for the guys above and below the numbers between the Giants and Chicago Bears. Now let's go back to Bob.
Carl, obviously, Daniel Jones took a lot of hits against the Dallas Cowboys. The Giants need to do a better job of protecting their quarterback if you want to have him for 17 games.
You absolutely do, Bob. And when he gets protection, he's shown to make good decisions with the football. But this game is won up front, both sides of the football. And for this offense, get Saquon Barkley going, you got to block. To get the passing game going, you got to block. So that's it. It starts there. They've got to be able to protect.
That's it. Got to win at the point of attack. When we come back, we'll be rejoined by Coach Daboll to take a look at the Chicago Bears here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop.
I think we're capable of producing a lot more in the passing game. We've also got Saquon Barkley.
Handoff to Barkley. Runs out of an arm tackle. Inside the 20. Barkley cuts left to the 15. He's to the 10. He's to the 5. Touchdown, Giants! Saquon Barkley on a 36-yard run, and the Giants have the lead with 5:31 to go here in the third.
They like running the ball a lot. Even on 3rd and longs, they like running the ball. So, it's just a game that we just got to bring our lunch pails and, just go to work, put our hard hats on and, stop the run. That's just going to have to be the ultimate goal.
Handoff left for McCaffrey, probing the defense, runs into a few people, and he's going to lose a few. Jihad Ward cleaned it up for a loss.
We all have to play as a unit. My focus is not just on myself, but the whole O-line group to perform better, and that starts with me, just working on that every day to get better.
Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. Bob Papa along with Carl Banks, and we're rejoined by Giants head coach Brian Daboll. Coach, you got the Chicago Bears coming in. Monsters of the Midway. What they do is run the football. Khalil Herbert last week had a big week. They got a young quarterback. It's pretty simple, right, in the NFL? If you don't control the line of scrimmage, anybody can beat you.
Yeah, everything starts up front, and give Matt Eberflus a lot of credit for going in there and building his culture the way he wants it built. They play, good defense. They try to get the ball and turn it over and make timely plays like what happened last week, and do a good job of running the football. I think Justin is a talented young player with an arrow up, and, he can run it, he can throw it. He's a, dual threat quarterback, and they've done a good job with, playing the style of game they want to play.
And in that style, Coach, that gives your defense more responsibility, because when you know a quarterback, not just under duress, but they can design runs for him, it gives your defense one more person to have to account for, right?
Yeah, 11-on-11 football. Yeah. And again, he certainly hurt people with his legs. He's hurt him with his arm too, whether he's in the pocket or he's scrambling and makes a loose play like you saw him against the San Francisco 49ers in the rain game. But again, they're a committed team to the running game. You can see that when Green Bay's up a little bit on them, and they're still pounding away. And they had a long drive that got down to the goal line where they try to run that, the quarterback on the one. So physical up front is going to be key.
You mentioned Roquan Smith. He had a big interception last week, late in the game, which set up the game-winning field goal as they won their football game. And then you got a guy like Eddie Jackson, former stud at Alabama, who is he's one of those guys, right? You got to keep your eye out on because he scored a whole bunch of touchdowns in his career from his safety spot.
Yeah, two really good football players that can cause issues for you as an offense. You got to know where they are. They're good ball hawks. They're fast. They're physical. Two really good football players, both from the SEC.
Coach, obviously on Sunday you take on the Chicago Bears, third home game in a row. Fan support has been awesome, starting with the Carolina game, Monday night with the whiteout. Now this is the legacy uniform game this week. But just talk about this home field sense you're getting and the response you're getting from Giants fans at this point.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. We'd like to go out there and give them a different result last week, but their support and how loud they are. I mean, it was a great atmosphere for a September game, and I know it was a Monday night game, but the atmosphere was unreal. We appreciate their support, and we're going to do everything we can do to improve and change the results of what happened last week.
Yeah, obviously you go through your week of practice, you get ready to play the Chicago Bears. Every game takes on a life of its own, different set of circumstances, but do you like the confidence that your team is showing despite the fact that it didn't work out well on Monday night?
Yeah, I think, confidence is important, so is consistency. So I think as long as everybody in our building, in our organization, from the coaches to the players to the staff members are consistent with what we think is needed to be successful, unless you're out there not giving effort or you're just making completely foolish mistakes, you can live with those things and build off them and improve, because it's never going to be perfect in this league. You're always going to have to go through some downs and you'll have some ups, but it's a consistent approach, a consistent philosophy, a consistent attitude. It's hard to do in this league, but I think that's important, for everybody to do that in our organization.
Coach, we appreciate a couple minutes as always this week.
I appreciate you guys.
Hey, Giants fans, remember the game on Sunday with the Giants and the Chicago Bears is presented by Quest, proud partner in health of the New York Giants. It's the legacy game, the throwback uniforms. If you're coming to the stadium, you're going to have a little throwback halftime concert as well. So for Coach Brian Daboll, Carl Banks, and our entire crew, I'm Bob Papa. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop.